Imagine a world where the most powerful military alliance in history faces off against an emerging superpower coalition representing nearly half of humanity. NATO versus BRICS. The West versus the rest. This isn't just a hypothetical scenario anymore. It's a question that military strategists, economists, and world leaders are quietly asking themselves. Today, we're breaking down the numbers, the capabilities, and the brutal realities of what would happen if these two titans actually went to war. First, let's understand who we're talking about. NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, was formed in 1949 as a collective defense alliance. Today, it includes 32 member nations, primarily from Europe and North America. The alliance operates on a simple but powerful principle. An attack on one is an attack on all. With the United States as its backbone, NATO has been the dominant military force on the planet for over 7 decades. BRICS started differently. Originally formed in 2006 as an economic cooperation bloc, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. It expanded dramatically in 2024 to include Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, Saudi Arabia, and the UAE. That's 10 nations now, representing vastly different regions and ideologies. Unlike NATO, BRICS was never designed as a military alliance. It's an economic and political coalition aimed at challenging Western dominance in global institutions. But here's the thing. In modern warfare, economics, population, and military might are inseparable. So let's compare these giants across every dimension that matters. Let's start with the most obvious metric: money. NATO's combined defense budget in 2024 reached a staggering $1.3 trillion. That's more than half of all global military spending. The United States alone accounts for $877 billion of that total, more than the next 10 countries combined. European NATO members have also ramped up spending significantly, with Poland now spending over 4% of its GDP on defense. BRICS, by comparison, spends approximately $350 billion annually on defense. China leads with around $225 billion, followed by India with substantial investments. Russia has dramatically increased its military spending to over 6% of GDP due to the Ukraine conflict, reaching approximately $120 billion in 2025. The spending gap is massive, nearly 4-to-1 in NATO's favor. But raw spending doesn't tell the whole story. What matters is what you get for that money, and that's where things get interesting. Here's where BRICS starts to flex its muscles. NATO fields approximately 3.44 million active military personnel. The United States contributes 1.33 million troops, with Turkey adding another 355,000. These forces are highly trained, well-equipped, and battle-tested from decades of operations worldwide. BRICS counters with over 5 million active troops. China alone maintains 2 million active personnel, while India contributes another 1.4 million. Russia, battle-hardened from its conflict in Ukraine, adds approximately 1.32 million troops. This is the largest combined ground force on the planet. But there's a critical difference. NATO forces train together regularly, use compatible equipment, and operate under integrated command structures developed over 75 years. BRICS nations have their own military doctrines, incompatible equipment, and no unified command structure. China uses Russian-influenced tactics, India has British-influenced military traditions, and Brazil operates independently. Getting these forces to work together would be like forcing 5 orchestras playing different symphonies to suddenly perform in harmony. Now we enter the terrifying realm of nuclear weapons. NATO possesses approximately 5,500 nuclear warheads. The United States holds about 5,044 warheads, France has around 290, and the United Kingdom maintains about 225. Through NATO's nuclear sharing program, American tactical nuclear weapons are stationed in Belgium, Germany, Italy, the Netherlands, and Turkey. Approximately 125 to 130 B-61 tactical bombs ready for deployment. BRICS counters with roughly 6,360 nuclear warheads. Russia alone possesses the world's largest nuclear arsenal, approximately 6,200 warheads, including both strategic and tactical weapons. China is rapidly expanding its arsenal, projected to reach 1,500 warheads by 2035. India maintains a credible minimum deterrence strategy with over 160 nuclear warheads. This is the great equalizer. Any direct confrontation between NATO and BRICS would almost certainly escalate to nuclear exchange, making the question of who would win tragically meaningless. There would be no winners, only varying degrees of civilizational collapse. Let's talk about technological superiority. NATO maintains a decisive edge in military technology. American stealth fighters like the F-35 and F-22, advanced naval vessels including 11 nuclear-powered aircraft carriers, sophisticated missile defense systems, and cutting-edge cyber warfare capabilities give NATO unmatched power projection. The alliance's integrated command and control systems, developed over decades, allow real-time coordination across all domains: land, sea, air, space, and cyber. European NATO members contribute advanced systems too. Germany's Leopard tanks, France's Rafale fighters, and Britain's Type 45 destroyers represent some of the world's most capable conventional weapons. BRICS nations are catching up rapidly. China has made remarkable strides in hypersonic missiles, aircraft carriers, and advanced fighter jets like the J-20. Russia's electronic warfare capabilities and tactical nuclear weapons remain formidable. India is developing indigenous weapons systems including the Tejas fighter and various missile platforms. However, there's a massive gap in operational experience with advanced systems. NATO forces have been refining network-centric warfare, precision strike capabilities, and joint operations for decades. Most BRICS nations lack this institutional knowledge. Modern wars are won in factories as much as battlefields. Here's where the tables turn. BRICS now surpasses NATO in combined GDP, PPP, reaching over $60 trillion compared to NATO's $40 trillion in 2024. China alone contributes $18 trillion, while India adds $3.7 trillion. The recent addition of Gulf economies like Saudi Arabia and the UAE has further boosted BRICS' economic weight. More importantly, BRICS economies are growing at 4% plus annually, while most NATO economies manage only 1 to 2.5% growth. BRICS nations account for 25% of global exports and control significant shares of critical resources: rare earth minerals, oil, natural gas, and agricultural commodities. NATO maintains technological superiority and controls international financial institutions like the IMF and World Bank. The US dollar remains the global reserve currency, though BRICS is actively working to challenge this through alternative payment systems and local currency trading. In a prolonged conflict, industrial capacity matters enormously. China's manufacturing output alone exceeds that of the United States. Russia has demonstrated the ability to dramatically increase weapons production under wartime conditions. The question becomes, can NATO's technological edge overcome BRICS' industrial scale? Geography would be absolutely critical in any NATO-BRICS conflict. NATO members cluster primarily in North America and Europe, with extensive infrastructure connecting them: highways, railways, ports, and air bases. The alliance maintains forward-deployed forces and has spent decades preparing defensive positions and logistics networks. BRICS nations are geographically scattered across 4 continents. Brazil is isolated in South America. South Africa sits at the tip of Africa, while China, India, and Russia occupy vast territories across Asia. Moving forces between these regions would require massive airlift or sea lift operations, capabilities that only China is beginning to develop at scale. Consider this scenario. If NATO attacked a BRICS member, how would the others respond? Could Chinese forces reach Iran? Could Russian forces support India? Could Brazil meaningfully contribute to defense of Ethiopia? The logistical challenges are staggering. NATO, meanwhile, could concentrate forces relatively quickly. American carrier battle groups can reach most global hotspots within weeks. European NATO members can rapidly reinforce each other via land routes. The reality check. Why this war won't happen? Here's the uncomfortable truth that makes this entire discussion somewhat academic. BRICS isn't actually a military alliance. Unlike NATO's Article 5, which legally obligates all members to defend any attacked member, BRICS has no collective defense treaty. There's no unified command structure, no joint military planning, no requirement to fight together. It's primarily an economic and political cooperation framework. Moreover, BRICS members have competing interests and historical rivalries. India and China fought a border war in 1962 and maintain tense relations today. India relies on Russia for weapons, but has strong partnerships with the United States. Brazil and South Africa have no strategic interest in Asian conflicts. These nations might cooperate economically, but would they actually go to war together? The more realistic scenario would be NATO versus individual BRICS members, or limited regional conflicts, not a unified BRICS bloc fighting as one force. So who would win? In a purely conventional war without nuclear weapons, NATO would likely prevail due to superior coordination, technology, power projection capabilities, and unified command structures. The United States military alone possesses capabilities no single nation can match: 11 aircraft carriers, global logistics networks, and combat experience from decades of operations. However, any conflict involving nuclear powers changes the calculation entirely. With over 11,000 combined nuclear warheads between both sides, escalation to nuclear warfare becomes almost inevitable. And in that scenario, there are no winners, only survivors picking through radioactive ruins. The real answer is more nuanced. NATO would win the war it's trained to fight, a coordinated, high-tech conventional conflict in Europe. But BRICS nations, especially China, are not preparing to fight NATO's war. They're developing asymmetric capabilities, hypersonic missiles, cyber warfare, economic coercion, designed to neutralize NATO's advantages without direct confrontation. The truth is, we're already in a form of competition between these blocs. It's playing out in economic sanctions, technology races, diplomatic maneuvering, and proxy conflicts. The winner won't be determined on a battlefield, but in factories, research labs, and the corridors of power where the rules of the 21st century world order are being written. The question isn't really who would win a war between NATO and BRICS. The question is, can humanity avoid such a catastrophic conflict while these power blocs compete for global influence? Because in a war that brings together the world's largest militaries and nuclear arsenals, the only real winner would be whoever survives to rebuild from the ashes. What do you think? Could NATO's technological superiority overcome BRICS' numerical and economic advantages? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dives into geopolitics and global security.